Today we begin with a piece I believe you will recognize. Stop there for now.
So that's not the whole piece. There's a whole other section.
No. There's
that I couldn't even sing to you. Like, I know that
section.
Part.
We'll get to
when
it.
When the kids learn that, because that's a piece that you often learn as a, intermediate beginner pianist, right?
There's actually an abridged version that is essentially the part I just played.
That's what I was going to ask.
And nothing more. And a lot of times that's the version that people learn, like growing up or learning the piano, because it's such a popular and recognizable tune. And we can talk a little bit about maybe why that is. Well, it's like stood the test of time in this weird way. Part of it may even be like the mystery around the historical context of it, which I don't know a lot about. But I know it was believe, and what I heard and what I've read so far is that, it was for this girl, either Therese or Teresa or Elise.
Beethoven wrote it.
Beethoven
This is by
wrote
Beethoven.
This is by Beethoven.
This is FÜR ELISE.
And it wasn't published till after his death, and so it wasn't a piece that he necessarily, I don't know, wanted out there in public, but it was a piece that he wrote privately for probably a student.
It's so funny when we
that
find
he might have been in love with. Yep.
Works of art or music and by dead artists, and they're like, oh, they never showed thank God we found this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like there's a reason they buried it.
Yeah, totally.
Probably.
Never dared to. Well, discovered. It's like, discovered in his drawer in a file that says, please do not show this to the world. This is private. This is my own personal love letter to this 17-year-old girl that I was kind of in love with. And it's like, wow.
We must show this.
Beethoven's.
Other 17-year-olds shall learn this piece now.
Yeah, he's like, great. I wonder what he would think of if he knew how popular FÜR ELISE was.
Well, how would he feel if not only it's unearthed, but it's being played mostly by beginner pianists super unmusically?
Yeah.
Because when you learned it, you probably played it more like, how old were you when you learned it?
I don't even know. Actually, let's see, I think I might have been I might be wrong, but I might have been 8 when I learned kind of at least the abridged. Maybe I tried to learn the whole thing. I think I tried to learn the whole thing for real, like the actual FÜR ELISE. And my teacher was like, I don't think you're ready. And I think I did it. I think I was so determined I was inspired,
Yeah.
But when you're young, you don't understand especially how long phrases need to be, and you don't understand the context for a phrase or for a gesture.
You think of music vertically not more. Like linear.
Yeah, it's very hard when you're young to develop a sense for the melodic line and where the music is going. You're just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So here it's like you're counting for one thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you got to keep that in your head. Maybe throw a metronome on. So there's just the practicality of putting the music together in this fundamental way between the hands. And go ahead.
How many recitals have we heard a kid play it just like that?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's good. If you're getting the notes, if you're getting the rhythm, those are the things that you want to focus on when you're young. You're building a foundation of technique. But
it's
what?
funny to think that this piece that allegedly Beethoven wrote for someone he was so in love with, and now it's just being used in this very academic way by like little kids.
Yeah, it's very odd. That would be very disorienting for him if you were to hear that.
Yeah,
but how you what?
Like, just imagine if you wrote some like love letter to some woman. You were, like, it just. My love for you is as vast as an ocean.
In a diary.
Like, and then like kids are learning it as like how to learn English. Like, you know what I mean? And they're just like reciting it very robotically.
That is odd. It's like a total deconstruction of your love.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna try to infuse it with this original kind of love and expression. Because actually, I do think that a piece like this is a good symbol for, first of all, why Beethoven is seen as much as a romantic composer or more than as a classical composer. And not only because, he was such a revolutionary and revolutionized form and all this. This isn't like a crazy form, this piece. I mean, it's sort of a rondo form, A-B-A-C-A. And it's in the style of like a bagatelle, which is just a kind of improvisational, small little piece that floats between characters and doesn't have a really strict structure, but this does happen to be in rondo form, which that means basically this theme just keeps coming back. It starts, it moves off in another direction, and it returns to this theme. It just keeps returning to that. Rondo is like a round. It's like a circle.
A-B-A-C, is that what rondo is again?
A-B-A-C-A. You got to come back at the end.
Right, so A section, B section, back to A section, back to C section. Back to the A section.
Back to the A section.
Okay.
So you're kind of like always returning home to this structural point that we all recognize and feel comfortable in. It's a little like a pop song that has a chorus. You're always coming back to
totally.
Okay, I thought you were gonna call me out, but
no,
that's right.
What would there be to call you out on that?
I don't know. I you know me. I don't know a lot about pop music.
What's the B section of this? Is it or is that part of the A section? Is that like
that's
A1?
All A? That's all A. When you know you've gone to a different section is really when you enter a new key.
Okay.
So I like to think about form more in terms of harmony or keys than in melodic material. Mm-hmm. And that's when you really know, like, okay, you're still in A minor. You're still in A minor. And now, I mean, we've entered a bright new key
that's B.
of F major.
B
Yeah,
section.
Exactly. That would be the B section. Yeah. But these pieces are, I mean, as I'm introducing you to these new sections for the first time, I guess you haven't heard this. It's crazy. But
sounds like vaguely familiar, but I wouldn't have gone to my head. I wouldn't have been able to be like, this is the B section.
Well, it's worth like revisiting, I think, these pieces that we learn when we're young. Not only because, it's not just the abridged version, it's the full work, and this piece is actually kind of interesting and profound. I'll play more of the piece for you in a little bit, but the C major Prelude of Bach is another great example of a piece that we learn when we are young. I mean, for the most part.
It's technically simple.
It's technically not one of Bach's most difficult. It's not like a fugue.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're all kind of all the music is like in one hand position for the most part. You don't have to do any crazy leaps. But how it actually travels from one key to another is really beautiful. Like how we're kind of modulating already through a sequence of keys here. Down the piano. We're modulating to G major, which is not where we started. Here, this is G major. We started up here, and now we're here. And like this journey, this harmonic journey is going to continue. But if you don't feel those harmonies, which you don't quite understand when you're younger, then you kind of tend to play it like this. Almost like a pointillistic painting instead of these broader brushstrokes.
And since the harmony is broken, the chords are broken, if you're playing it so vertically, you're actually missing the harmony because you're just thinking of the individual notes.
Exactly. If these were chords, by the way, now we're back at C major, just an octave lower, so it's different. Feels different to us. But if this would be a different piece if I just broke the chords like this. But instead, he forces us to feel the resonance of each harmony by arpeggiating it and tell the story of each harmony. And now we think the piece is going to end, and it doesn't. But there's some light, there's some hope here in C major. We're stuck on this G pedal point in the bass for so long that now surely the piece is definitely going to end here. And he doesn't. A little secondary dominant. And then one more dissonance in the left hand. I love that. Major seventh. This is one big, to some degree, this is one big, like 35 or 36 bar phrase that if you understand in a mature way the story of the harmony and the structure, that will very much affect your interpretation. If you don't know that, then there's just more curiosity to be had. And
Right.
and it's endless with Bach.
Well, this piece especially, it's like the melody is the harmony is the melody. Like, it's incredibly efficient. It's similar. I mean, it sort of predates a lot of like minimalist music that comes later, where it's just sort of the harmony in this consistent rhythm. You know, it's taking
it's a harmony. Something like minimalism is like it's harmonically simple and texturally repetitive. So
Yes.
like you need, like you said, the repetitive rhythm or that motor is part of what is triggering our brain to feel a kind of expectation, so that if and when the music does change, it's incredibly shocking to our, not just our frontal lobe, but like our body. Because we're lulled into this oneness of harmony and texture that just is continuing. And then that shift is like, whoa, it's like taking a cold plunge for the ears all of a sudden. You mentioned melody and harmony being kind of like intertwined in Bach. And I think a lot of times it is with Beethoven too. He's not always known as a melodicist. Like he doesn't have beautiful kind of Chopin-esque melodies a lot of the
Bach?
time. No, Beethoven.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I don't think do Baroque composers generally have that.
I mean, well, opera was invented, I believe, in the Baroque period, you know,
Maybe
composers like Monteverdi.
But it hadn't moved to the instrumental yet. That style had sort of stayed maybe
No,
in the opera. I'm not
you're right.
asking. I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, and I could be totally off, but when I think about, for example, so like some of the preludes to me of Bach are very vocal. Again, a Bach historian or a historical performance person might be like, that's not an aria, that's an overture, you idiot. Whatever, I don't know. But to me, this kind of thing, this is the E flat minor prelude. You know, has like a vocal quality, you know, that reminds me of Baroque operas.
Yes.
So, and yeah, maybe the dotted rhythm implies something else, but
you're right. There are, yeah.
I mean, and Bach had, I mean, you know, I don't know, the Mass. I mean, he has obviously so much of his stuff is choral music. I mean, chorales are, you're right, like maybe making sure not to think that always bleeds into the instrumental music, but I think he's actually always thinking in some way vocally, even if it is a translation to instrumental music. Like the voices of fugues are voices, you know? They're not like purely instrumental techniques. It is like something that one could sing. And a soprano could sing, and then an alto could sing, and then a tenor could sing, and a bass could sing, and it could work out somehow.
Right.
Anyway, getting back to the FÜR ELISE, you mentioned this. That's a really cool idea of blending like the melodic with the harmonic, or the where it's like, all right, is that the melody? Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I mean, it's more instrumental. It's kind of allowing the fingers to do something playful, not like the voice necessarily. I don't think of this immediately as a vocal line. And yet, how he lingers with this pickup is, I think, pretty romantic and pretty like individualistic and expressive, kind of in a vocal way. So this pickup thing becomes really important in the Romantic era, where like Schumann, Traumerei, it happens in Chopin all the time too. But that first note, you can linger on it. In fact, you should. You shouldn't just play it bluntly into the downbeat, because a lot of the expression in romantic music is in the lingering. It's in the expectation and the tension between, it's like desire. The distance that you have when you desire something between what you desiring and the object of your desire. That distance is powerful and creates emotion.
It's a depiction of desire, this lingering.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you bring that out? In things like pickups, where it's not,
what do you mean by pickup for our listeners?
Oh, okay. So in music, you have like the downbeat of the measure, or the beginning of a piece that starts on
like
beat 1 of the measure.
4. One is, yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you're like, okay, I'm going to start a piece. It's like Beethoven's Emperor Concerto. It just starts. You know what I mean? Or let's say the entrance of Beethoven's Third Piano Concerto. When the piano enters, it enters like this. And so those scales upward are a kind of pickup.
We don't know that until you continue playing, though, because it could be.
Yeah, I guess so, to the ear. So it ends up being. So we recognize that, okay, 1.
So the pickup refers to a note starting in the middle of the previous measure.
Yeah.
Even though the previous measure doesn't exist except with that pickup.
Totally.
But, yeah.
This is one of those like, music notation is not perfect. Let's relax. They're just trying their best, Yeah. But they want the strong feeling to be the result of, or at the end of that pickup.
Right.
So here it's like 1. It's not like.
Right.
So 1. 1. Like those are the end points of those little gestures are the stronger beats, and these little things are the pickup. At least that's how I think about it in my mind. Whatever that means to you, whatever those gestures mean to you. And a lot of times it's just one note, like in the Schumann I played earlier. It just kind of needs to signify like something that's leading. And then, I don't know, that just makes us have a different feeling when the piece starts. And FÜR ELISE starts, I think, with this, even though it's kind of a measure, it's 1.333 measures. Because we got 2 notes and a 3/8 bar, and then a whole 3/8 bar. So we got 4 beats out of 6 beats. Is that right? Hold on. What am I doing? 2 3/8 bars is 6 beats. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 beats of those 6 beats.
Okay.
But it's all leading. Doesn't matter. It's all leading to the left-hand downbeat, the A. So I think that is all a pickup to the real beginning of the piece, which is that. more pickup. And then that's a pickup into. Now we're just kind of floating pickup-ish stuff. You could do this as long as he wants to keep us hanging. And
there isn't a fermata note here there or anything?
No,
right?
I made that up. I just added it.
People don't do that, right?
No. I don't know. I don't do that. Only when I'm trying to explain pickups.
Right.
So I think it's important to conceptually feel it that way. Right. That it's not this thing like, all right, here we go, the start of the piece. But rather think of it as a heartfelt longing. And then this is the beginning of the piece for real. And by the way, not that complicated and not that melodic, just 1-5-1 when the piece actually starts.
These simpler pieces are harder in a way. One, because they're so simple, so you have to not just fall into kind of playing them in a sort of boring style, but also if you have learned them when you were younger, going back to them, you might play them with some older habits that you've since gotten rid of. Like when I tell an older joke of mine, it has the delivery style of like a less funny or a less developed comedian, whereas my newer jokes are in a newer style. And so do you feel like when you come back to a piece like this that you're at all fighting like old bad habits?
I would say mostly it's physical and technical habits, but those affect the interpretation.
Exactly.
So like, yes, I will especially look, I'm me, right? And I've let's say I've practiced my timing on this stuff like a lot because I'm practicing the piece, learning the piece. It is extremely easy to just fall into that groove of like, I know this works. This is how I feel about the piece. I'm just going to get up there and do my thing that I know works. But to some degree, to try to change that is also artificial. It's like, I am me. I'm not a different soul who feels things differently. So to break out of those patterns, I think all you can really do is take a lot of time away from a piece after you've learned it, and then just trust that when you come back, you see things differently. Like the way I do with FÜR ELISE now. Mm-hmm. I see it completely differently, and I might try new things because it's almost like probably the same as reading a book that you've read 10 years ago. And then you say, oh my God, I really love this book. Let me pick it back up again and read it. You probably read it with a totally different perspective.
Right, but the difference is you're not making the book happen. Well, in a way you are in your imagination.
You're interpreting it.
You are interpreting it. But with music, the only way it exists is if someone is, like if you're playing it. If you're listening to it, that's different. But in terms of like someone who plays music coming back to the piece, even if you might hear it and interpret it differently, your physicality might still retain some of this old something. Although I do think the best, like you said, taking a break, the best way to break bad habits is to take a long break, come back, feel out of shape, but then when you rebuild without the bad habits.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I'm right.
We're both right.
Whoever's right. I forgot if that was your point or mine, but
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think allowing yourself to be open when you return is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And forcing yourself to like, hey, look, maybe that means I got to change my fingering, because a lot of fingering choices end up being musical.
Yeah.
So,
all my fingering choices are, I mean, a lot of them are also efficiency, but there's sometimes two fingerings that are just as efficient, but it's just a tone. Do I want to play this in third position on the D string or in first position on the A string?
Yeah.
Because it's in a warmer tone on the D string.
I think for strings, it's even more obvious and important. Yeah. For pianists, we have to be reminded and taught, like, hey, it might not be convenient, but you may want to change your fingering there in order to give it emphasis in a way that it wouldn't have if you just used your fourth finger for convenience. Like, I know it's harder to let me switch to 3 and switch to 2, but especially in classical period music, you might get a more natural, I mean, I don't know, here's probably a bad example, but in all these figures, if you want to give off, let's say I want to really bring out the 2-note slurness of those gestures, so, like that. Maybe I wouldn't just
Well, I
play
saw
them
you
on all
doing
one
like
hand.
you were alternating. Can we see your hands in this shot?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So what Beethoven writes here is, and then right hand, left hand,
Oh, he writes that
right
in.
hand, left hand. So he's actually forcing you to do a more musically interesting or like evocative or rhetorical gesture. He doesn't say left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. He just puts in the bass clef. He says, "Play this in treble clef with your left hand."
Oh, he just puts it in a different hand.
Puts it in a different hand. At least in this edition, I think this is a Barenreiter. I think this is legit. So you're trading hands. Would it be easier to just do this? Of course, but then it's not forcing you to re-articulate, have that like sighing gesture over and over and over, like you're longing until you're ready to come back. So that actually is automatically, that's a built-in example of how a composer might force the pianist to approach things more musically rather than just conveniently, let's say. Let me play for you this second section.
Yeah.
This F major section, which is a total change of scenery, the B section. So after we end the first modulation, now you can hear him starting to get back. And now we're back. I kind of milked that. I wouldn't normally take that much time, but I wanted to show you the transition going into back into the A section.
Right.
And this...
That's an aria right there.
Yeah, that's more of a song, a song-like character, because we have just an accompaniment, right, that you would have in any kind of song, and then the melody. Yeah, it's lighter. The F major quality gives it a character of like kind of buoyancy and sweetness. Very different than kind of a moody A minor. So, and he just straight up increases like the what do you call it? The quickness. It feels like the tempo increases because the notes are shorter.
Right.
So he's got 30-second notes here. And this is like Haydn-esque. I mean, you would find this in music by Haydn, Mozart. It's very ornamental, like scales and this kind of figuration are just filling things in. So we have that song. But then something very instrumental. It's kind of just like circling around its tail. You know, it's just kind of like, whee! It's not really doing anything
just like
profound.
How he's feeling like a crazy little kid circling his tail, being so in love with this.
Oh, yeah.
This girl.
That's right. That's the joy that he feels looking at a 17-year-old girl that he's teaching.
How old was he, though? We have to specify.
I'm just going to, based on no knowledge or context, I'm going to say 50.
Which makes the age of 17 significant.
Yeah.
Like if he was 20,
yeah,
you're like, oh, he's just like into
back then, you know, times were different, you know.
Yeah.
But I at least one of the stories I heard that was that the family banned him from coming back to teach her.
Right. We don't have a primary source.
We have no primary sources on this. I really look forward to people writing in saying, correcting me,
yeah.
Beethoven scholars everywhere. The great-great-grandmother of Elise writing in. How dare you? This is hearsay. Yeah. She was 34 at the time. Anyway, full of glee, which Beethoven rarely feels, right? And then,
how deaf was he at this point? Do we know?
oh, if he's in his 40s or 50s, he's completely deaf.
Okay.
He's deaf.
But when we say completely deaf, did he go? Do we know if he could still ever hear anything? Like it was just very muted or distorted, or was he?
Let's not go down again. I'm not a historian. I don't.
You don't know.
remember.
You can just say you don't know.
I don't know. I think my understanding was that he was completely deaf. I mean, that he went completely deaf. I mean, he was trying in every which way to like hear sound. He was making contraptions against the piano to hear the vibrations of the things he played. I mean, that's not someone who can hear a little bit.
Right.
That's someone who is like, I'm desperate to be able to hear pitches.
Right.
And I can't.
Yeah.
And somehow he still figured it out. He still wrote this beautiful piece. So then we make our way back to the A section with these overlapping hands. And by the way, maybe this is a kind of romantic gesture, just this tender feeling of needing to overlap your hands. Now we're back in the pocket. Still in the A section. Now we might end the piece here. That would make it a ternary form, ABA, but instead we get what we call a pedal point in the bass. This A, tonic pedal point. Interesting harmonic move there. Brightens things up, but only for a second. And then a little kind of coda in A minor that can get us back to the A section. It's a little virtuosic transition. It's part of what makes this a bagatelle. It's kind of improvisatory.
You said it's a bagatelle?
Simple as that. Yeah.
What's a bagatelle? I mean, can bagatelles also be rondos?
Yes.
Okay.
I think bagatelles are generally either in ternary or rondo form. Ternary is just ABA. It's like super simple.
Rondo's ABACA.
Yeah. ABACA. ABACA. Yeah. I always have to count it out. I'm like, yeah, there are 5 sections in there. But just kind of a small improvisatory piece that is a little more casual in character and can kind of float from one style to another, between the sections. And, I think that little move he does toward the end, that's the first time he really, besides those 30-second notes, really changes the rhythm. I mean, we feel the triplets, which is kind of a big change after this dramatic pause. Is that also the only time he really has silence in the piece? It's kind of a perpetual motion piece,
Yeah, dude. It really just keeps sort of loop. It could loop that first section forever.
Forever. That's part of, I think, what makes it captivating is this like perpetual motion. Beethoven loves to do that. And then he has these silences and then building. A chromatic scale, especially in the classical period, but also the Romantic era, is an excuse for a composer to be like, just throw the form out the window for a sec and let's find a way to get us back to, the rondo, to the A, to the A section. He does that in the, I mentioned the C minor, Piano Concerto, number 3. He does that everywhere there to get back to this. Yeah. He goes like, it's like
wanted to show off there.
See, that's not hard. That's
it's one of those things that looks hard and it's
looks
not.
hard, and once you learn how to play a chromatic scale,
I know
you can just do it.
Same on string. It sounds really impressive, but it's just sort of like a pattern. Once you learn the pattern,
Once you learn the pattern, it's there.
Yeah.
But you can do that, and I think that's why composers use it. It's a virtuosic like trick.
Yeah.
You know, Liszt does that all the time. There are all kinds of ways you can kind of magically distract people before coming back to something they recognize. Right. So you're getting that expectation and then fulfillment. But yeah, that's the FÜR ELISE in its entirety, which is a little more complicated, a little more sophisticated than just the abridged version. And I think it does, like, it's classical because it does also change characters so much. Something like the Chopin Nocturne that I played in another episode, that's basically, it focuses on one mood, or the character pieces in the Romantic era really focus on one central mood. And Beethoven will largely do that too in some of his more intense movements. Think about Moonlight Sonata. The first movement is all one vibe, one mood. He's not letting you out of it, really. Also used in film a lot of the time, which again, these pieces that have like one mood are so appealing. Yeah, the soundtrack. We're in the previous episode, in case people aren't familiar, we talked about that. Yeah, because there's something that people can just there's something that people can understand and identify with. It's not. These pieces don't have to be a full story in themselves. Right. They're just a color. They can be a color. Yeah. They can be a color, especially in the Romantic period. It's like, let's get into a mood, not, I'm not trying to entertain you in the way that like Mozart is constantly changing characters, minor, major. Hey, what if I did this? What if I got this reaction from my audience? The C section. Beethoven doesn't care. Oh, yeah. I mean, but in FÜR ELISE, he's still attached to that classical genre in the way that it switches back and forth so drastically, I think. In the way it switches back and forth, and also the style of definitely the A section sounds more classical. It's really not till the C section that sounds like really, to me, Beethoven, that pedal. This thing. Yeah. That's like, oh, this is Beethoven. Yeah, because Beethoven's all about tension, right? So if you have this in the bass, it reminds me of, what's the pieces? Pathetique. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It evokes that. It's giving Pathetique. It's giving Pathetique vibes. Yeah. How does it? After that big. Yeah, after that section, then we get. When the piece finally starts, it goes like, oh my god, it's really hard actually. I don't really play this, but yeah, that's the idea. It's like has this kind of like Beethovenian rumble. Beethovenian rumble. That's a good band name. Yeah, copyright that. And by the way, that those pedal points tend to happen in development sections, in these long sections in the middle of the piece of tension, and so that you can spill in back to the recap or the music that we're really familiar with from the opening. Right. So Beethoven's a master at that. He's a master at elongating that sense of tension, like a Romantic composer would. I mean, if we're talking about it's hard not to mention like Wagner and Tristan and Isolde when you're talking about Romanticism, even though that comes much later, because it's a good representation of what it means to truly prolong tension in music. You can have Romanticism or classical aspects in your music, even if you're not a classical or a Romantic period composer. Very good point. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That's a clip. Just knock over the whole line. Yeah, you're allowed to do whatever you want here, Isabel. That it is like we get stuck in these boundaries. Yeah. Of like Bach died in 1750s. There was no more Baroque anything after that. Or, whatever. We tend to conveniently label the different eras because it's easy for our brains to understand. But there's so much overlap going on all the time that the opening of Tristan. I mean, okay, so pick up. And you think, oh, maybe this is the start of something, but it just kind of dies away unresolved. This is a 7th chord, and then try again, a little higher. Just another 7th chord. We're still not getting anywhere. Even higher. Another question mark. Fermata. Just an octave higher. No harmony at all anymore, just unisons. And then an eruption. Okay, so we think we may have resolved somewhere, but it's really the start of something. And then, it's just every cadence leads to just another question, and you're just constantly in this state of longing. And that's what the music is trying to do. That's the extreme of like where Beethoven is kind of like, if you can trace from something like Bach to Beethoven to Wagner, Beethoven is in that middle ground where he's starting to stretch material and prolong that sense of tension in a way that ends up being central to romantic expression.
I have such trouble with Wagner emotionally affecting me because he's doing so much in such a quick amount of time. It's almost like, I think the more familiar you are with it, the better. But for me, it's like it keeps changing too quickly. Like we land on something and then we go somewhere else. And I think that's sort of the intended feeling. But for me, it's like, I don't get that satisfaction that I get from other composers that are a little less ambitious in their like the speed of their harmonic rhythm. Does that make sense?
Maybe part of it too is that you get satisfaction out of form and structure. How Wagner is tearing that apart. Like he's forcing you in some ways. That music is like what, this is going to be maybe too much to say, but like that more superficial thing of like what's on the surface of longing and desire becomes what's under the microscope. So that like that feeling, that pickup, the feeling of a pickup is now the whole substance of the music.
Right.
Or the whole expression, where it's like to constantly be in this state, which is like, bro, it's not really that realistic. Like,
well, it goes along with the Gesamtkunstwerk idea, which is every aspect.
Beautiful pronunciation.
Oh, thank you.
Stunning.
Gesamtkunstwerk. It means like the combining of I don't know the direct translation, but the idea is every aspect of the opera, the costumes, the set, the music, every aspect is supposed to be that art in its highest form.
Yeah.
The highest combination of all the arts, which is a lovely idea. And maybe it's great, but also there comes a point where it can just all be too much for like the human brain to appreciate.
Yeah.
Like I can't take in how beautiful the music and also say, and the costume design. Like,
yeah.
There's sort of only room for like a couple things in there at once.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a very humble way of composing. It's kind of like a maximal way of composing.
It's very maximal.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, I tend to, I gravitate toward composers like Schubert, who, like, invite you to meet the expression, rather than blast the expression into your guts, which is another way to go, where it's like force it down, which can be Beethoven sometimes. I mean, no doubt, Beethoven can do that. But I mean, we were talking about Pathetique, right? So he'll do that, but then he'll compose something like this, the second movement. Literally one of the most peaceful songs, and deep. Such a beautiful phrase, and not really forcing you to. It's not preaching at you. It's just inviting you to relax in. And then the second iteration is just the same thing, but an octave higher and with a bass and texture that's a little bit more rich. So, when he chooses to be, or like the slow movements of his concertos or something, he can go to a really personal and vulnerable and sacred place that isn't trying to do anything at all.
Right.
That's the paradox to me of Beethoven. Is he's so full of a need a lot of the time to either prove, early Beethoven maybe prove himself, or to like rip the music out of his soul and throw it onto this piece of paper in the only way he knows how. And then other times he's in this deeply contemplative mode where he's not requiring anything from us or the music. He's just allowing it to be. I think it's that part that Schubert especially grabs onto and takes in his own style, like for a lot of his music, where his songs are so patient and allow the music to unfold really organically, really, really beautifully.
It's the contrast, though, in Beethoven that he does have all this like tension building and searching, and then he throws you something like this.
Yeah.
And it's the contrast there that makes it even more impactful in that moment. It's like such a surrender, a momentary surrender. And then there's this one passing tone or note in it that's so gorgeous, just da 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 ba da, just that
that.
I don't know, it's just
right. If I took that out, let's see what it would sound like. So
it still works.
But it's the fact it's one of the simple facts that is the seventh of the chord, which is the most tense, interval between the root and the seventh, and it gives this feeling of desire that wants to lead somewhere, and indeed it does. It leads. It resolves properly down into the beginning of the next phrase.
It also lines up with, did you ever take Philip Lasser's class at Juilliard?
I did.
The Lasserian theory of melodic compensation, where if you skip, if you go to a higher note. This was his own
theory. Yeah.
I think it's his own theory.
Yeah.
And you have to somehow get to that note that's in between the two notes at some point.
It will resolve. Yeah.
It will. And so that's because it's ba da da ba.
And then so eventually
So if you just went back
we need to get to the D flat. This is the note that's missing in the scale.
Right.
If I'm like,
yeah.
Then so And
right, it's so open. It doesn't sound like it sounds like a weird modern piece.
This could be like Debussy.
Yeah.
Whatever. Unless we have that.
Yes.
It's fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's like the Bach where. And then back. Like we need that satisfaction of returning.
It's such a good theory because in all like acclaimed music that we play and study in at least before a certain time period, I don't remember how it goes for later music like Debussy, but it really does happen that way.
It happens.
You're like, oh, and there's the missing note.
There's something like maybe naturally in the body that's unresolved if we don't fulfill I don't know, the harmony inside. Right. That is left open.
Yeah.
Anyway, the harmony inside.
I think it was the essay he wrote is The Spiraling Tapestry by Philip Lasser.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a poetic title.
Yeah. Anyway,
check it out.
Well, I love how we went. I feel like this is a good spot to end because we went from like the simplest. We went from the Bach Prelude and like FÜR ELISE to Tristan and Isolde.
Wagner. One small leap. Yeah, well, I mean, it's all related.
It's all connected.
It's all connected somehow.
In a spiraling tapestry.
We're trying to figure it out, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever will.
Yeah.
Probably not. But
I don't think we're meant to. If we did, what would we do?
We wouldn't have a podcast anymore, that's for sure. Well, thanks.
Well, anyway.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.
See you next time.